wasn't too bad. But Rings of Power, give it to me, guys. How bad was it this time?
Yeah, well, I'll just begin with giving my chief takeaway from this entire episode. There's a point where Galadriel is to teach the men of Atlantis, or Numenor, however you want to refer to it. She's going to teach them how to fight orcs. And she does this by showing them how incredibly superior she is at everything, at fighting, and saying some platitudes. But she doesn't actually teach them a single freaking thing. So again, it was the writers just showing how superior Galadriel is, although we now know that she ages in dog years, so that even if she's 1,000, she has the maturity level of a 17-year-old TikToker. And yeah, that's my takeaway of that episode. I don't remember anything else from it, even though I watched it just a couple of hours ago. Chato, take it away.
Little Canadian health humor there. I'm sure.
Yeah. That's right. Thank God we have our own health.
United Health.
Universal Health. So,
or Universal Health. That's
so here, my overall take is the story with the Harfoot and the mystery guy is, even though he's a mystery box, it's getting irritating, is at least interesting. I'm now curious as to where this is going. It's going very slowly. The relationship between Elrond and the main dwarf is the most interesting thing in the entire series so far. That's actually moving forward. The idea of the mineral that the elves need, mithril, so they can not die a human death. Very interesting. There's some consequences there. I actually like that whole story. The whole orcs attacking the humans story, kind of a mini version of the orcs attacking what was the Helm's Deep, is I don't care. I'm hoping the orcs wipe out the humans. That's the one with the boring woman in love with the Don Lemon elf, that they can all die.
Don Lemonless?
Don Lemonless. It's like I've cared less for humanity than I've not cared less for humanity than that part in that movie. And the entire arc for Gary Ladriel, which I'm coining Gary Ladriel, it's mine, trademark Paul Chato, is the worst part of the entire show and series. Like, of all the 4 arcs I just described to you, it is the worst, which makes it very difficult on a show that is supposed to be the most important arc. So what do you think, Andre?
Is it wrong that I'm rooting for Sauron?
And no, it's not wrong at all.
And the outfits the Numenorians have, they're from the dollar store.
They were ridiculous. It's so generic.
Terrible.
I mean, Tom, like, we joked about this before, like when we did our Lord of the Rings videos, like, would not be fun to like put in some other generics that things are from elsewhere because they all look the same. I mean, yeah, I know those were some awful outfits, and then you have like Galadriel in this super shiny outfit that they must have custom made for her,
and it seemed to be like big for her.
Yeah.
Well, for those who don't know what Andre's referring to, we never did it, but at one video I did have it in the video until the final cut. We were going to do a joke where we were going to throw in a bunch of images from other shows that weren't Rings of Power mixed in with Rings of Power show, and then halfway through the video, Andre was going to go, by the way, you have probably noticed, considering you've commented already, I'm sure that a lot of those images may not have been from Rings of Power, but we're curious as how many of you didn't notice, and now you know that most of those images were not from Rings of Power, and you didn't even notice, and then we just see the flood of people, like kind of like a joke, just to see how many people would or wouldn't notice the difference. And I actually did it live on stream once with a couple people, And they got some of them right, but I'm like, yeah, but you guys are YouTubers and you watch all this shit constantly. So I'm curious what like the normies, if they saw these pictures just flashing in front of them from Wheel of Time, all these other shows, you know, they would not be able to tell the difference.
Yeah, exactly.
And the fight scene, Andre, you're right. I would have accepted it if she was doing one-on-one shit with the students.
If she had been challenged in any kind of way, like, why should we take orders from you? That's the only way where that would have worked.
Taking on 5 guys at once and doing stopping.
Yeah, and the worst thing was that she was supposed to teach them. She didn't teach them anything.
She was hitting them in the bum with her sword.
She was taking away their self-esteem before the fight.
She did mention things like, don't drop your guard. Don't, you know.
Platitudes. They knew that before.
Yes.
She didn't say a single thing that was useful.
No. And then
she was saying things like, don't get stabbed. It's like, thank you, we know. Do you have anything?
Well, you haven't seen what she's seen.
No.
Yeah, exactly.
I thought they did a reasonable job of choreographing it, but I didn't believe it.
It was ridiculous. What was even more ridiculous was this guy saying, hey, whoever is able to like just be near her with the sword
gets a
promotion to lieutenant. So like, oh, okay, so now you just promoted someone who lucked out and who is otherwise completely unfit to an officer. That's a nice strategy you have right there. No wonder you're going to get wiped out and Sauron is going to win. Because, yeah.
It did disturb me that they're playing with lethal weapons that could even inadvertently hurt somebody really, really badly. It's not like an epee where they say, okay, let's just put the ends on the epee and let's go at it. That I'm going, okay, I'm totally on with that. But these were serious swords that they went, okay, we're just gonna go after each other and I'm gonna be able to defend myself. I just didn't believe it.
Yeah, no, not at all. It was utterly ridiculous, and the series is now past the halfway point of season 1. And now we can ask, do you think it's gonna get better for the second half of season 1?
Well, they're going to be fighting something in the Southlands, and I still don't know why she's going there.
Neither do no one knows why she's going there. And I'm waiting for a twist ending of who Sauron really is, because we hear about Sauron. I'm sure we have seen him. It's going to be like a mystery box. It's going to be like that Lost King. He's going to be Sauron all the time, or something like that.
Or those evil elf people who were touching the remains, the fiery remains of the guy who looks like he's from Monty Python.
No, I know, I forgot already.
The guy who stopped the dire wolves by smacking on the ground and hurting his arm and having to freeze it.
Yeah, Gandalf.
So, is he bad or good? I mean, we still don't know.
I think that maybe he thinks that he's bad. Like, he had to be told that he's good. But now we saw but then we saw the filthy little gypsy girl towards the end there. She thinks that he's bad maybe after all, since she was running away from him in fear.
He froze her arm.
Yeah, exactly. Without it falling off. I mean, that instantly healed pretty well.
Yes, it did. And if I'm the person watching someone freeze their own arm, the first thing I'm going to do is grab it. Now, their relationship, however tedious or bad it is probably one of the better relationships in the show. But nothing else is particularly interesting in that order, except for the elf and the dwarf. I thought there's a good story there. We need the mithril, or we're going to die.
Yeah, there's a potentially good story there, but now I saw that beard looks so incredibly fake.
But I have no idea what they're going to be doing in the Southward or Southland, and they tried to get the guy who was the leader of the South people, and he didn't want to go back, and I don't know why he didn't want to go back. I don't understand what it is that there's, you need to have motivational backstory and undercurrent but I'm not guessing what it is he's running away from.
And I don't get what the hell the mithril is going to do. Like, what, to get better swords or something?
I don't know either. Wear a protective cod piece? Is it I don't
because
know.
okay, the mithril is like, it's super duper strong and it will light in the presence of orcs, but beyond that, like if you chop an orc's head off with a mithril sword as opposed to with a regular steel sword, will the head be any less chopped off or more chopped off?
It will glow blue.
It's like it's just ridiculous.
It is
so bad.
Well, I mean, you can't use the word ridiculous in a fantasy you have to be careful, Andre. I mean, it's all ridiculous. Star Wars is ridiculous. I mean, we have to be careful. But as people set up, they set up a certain set of reality boundaries that you've got to.
That's kind of like what I mean. First of all, I think there's very few things which are inherently ridiculous, but especially some things will ask a couple of things for you. But once you have granted those asks, then it has to stick true to its own story.
Correct. These are the rules.
Lord of the Rings, you can say that it's ridiculous, but really it's not. If you accept that this is a fictitious pre-story, and in this fictitious pre-story there were elves, dwarves, and magic creatures.
Right.
You accept that, it's not ridiculous, provided that it can stick to its own rules and internal structure. This doesn't do that. That makes it ridiculous.
Yeah, and for those of us who are willing to suspend disbelief and enjoy these worlds, whereas every time I watch Lord of the Rings for the 5th or 10th time, and my wife walks into the room, she just makes a snarky remark. So for her, it is all ridiculous all the time, 100%.
Yeah. Because she hasn't granted and she has not accepted those asks that are required to begin with. That's fine.
She's an evil woman. I have to love her.
I wouldn't put it quite that far, but we'll go with it's not for everyone.
This show is not going anywhere. Parts of it are going somewhere, but the worst part of it, unfortunately, is the core of it.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's exactly.
I feel badly. I mean, a lot of work was put in there, and there were moments of actually reasonable dialogue. I didn't mind the dialogue between Isildur and his dad. That I thought, oh, that wasn't too bad. There were moments where I thought they got the poetry right. I thought the stuff between the High Elf and Elrond, that worked. I didn't mind the poetry in that. That worked for me.
Yeah. There were things in here that I agree with you, that those things in isolation, if you had taken those out and put them into something else, they would have worked. But as a whole, this doesn't work. Where I disagree with you, I don't think it's sad. On the contrary, I am petty enough that I'm glad it doesn't work. And the reason for that is that this was an alerted disaster from day one. This is a series that Amazon never ever should have engaged in. They only had partial rights. It should have been blatantly obvious that given the right situation, given the very little material they had to work with, they should never have undertaken this enterprise at all. That was strike one against them. Strike two was then they hired a wrong production company that had a really lousy pitch that they accepted. And then that production company set about actively disrespecting the source material and the fans of that source material every single step of the way. You mentioned before that there is no relationship between the fans and these creators. That's not on the fans. That's on these creators.
Yeah.
They are the ones that have alienated everyone every step of the way. In that sense, I don't feel bad. I'm glad it fails. It's important that this fails. It needs to send a message that you can't do this. You can't go and adapt something that you do not have enough rights to adapt and then do it in the worst, most disrespectful way possible. That only subverts. That doesn't adapt. It only subverts. This, I think, is a needed failure. And I'm glad for that failure. And I don't really feel bad for anyone else, because everyone else working on it, from the individual staff writer who only adds in things, to all the gaffers and all the technical personnel, all the actors, they all got paid for their job. And this happens sometimes in real life. You do a job and you get paid for it, and people don't like it. This happens in every industry, all across the board. Don't have to be any personal. But in this case, I am very glad that Amazon are being financially punished for their series of extremely bad decisions.
I think they're going to turn it around in the next episode.
I think they're going to try, and I think they're going to fail. I don't think not the next episode, but next season. I think they're going to do exactly what they did with Star Trek Discovery, where each and every season is a course correction from the last one. But they can't make it work, because even if they were to do a complete change in all of the staff and everything like that, they started on such a bad foot with such limited source material. There's no fixing this. There's no way to do it.
You don't think that they're going to have to find Sauron at the end of how many episodes are they doing? 10? 10
I think we've seen Sauron already, but it doesn't matter. Like, the whole setup is fundamentally flawed. I mean, it's not a matter of like now fulfilling the story. It's like this whole thing they're doing, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't fit into canon. It doesn't fit in with anything. It's just this alternate thing.
One of the things that bothers me is the small scope of the number of people who are involved when it comes to the battles. It's so weird to have so few humans up against the orcs. Jackson's Lord of the Rings, marshaled, all this humanity to fight to the very end. And not that all battles are like that. I mean, there's many small skirmishes, but the orcs seem to have huge numbers, and the humans don't have even a fraction of what's necessary to keep them at bay, even though they've got that fort that they're in. And then the Numenors in their ships who are going to head off and help, are they, like, how many people are they going to be able to marshal to
actually they said it was 500 people over 5 ships, and then 2 of the ships blew up. So what they didn't say is that now 500 people on 3 ships.
That doesn't seem to be
or there's 200 people stay home. Or is it going to be like in the final season of Game of Thrones, where they slaughtered everyone in one episode, but then respawned them for the next one when they needed them again?
Why did the son of the bearded guy blow up the ship? I couldn't figure that out. I thought he was trying to get into the pants of the girl that he was kind of mooning over.
I think he doesn't want to work with the elves or something.
I guess.
I don't know. I
didn't understand that entire sequence, whether he was against his dad or with his dad.
I think if that sequence had been in the same episode as last episode, because that was a direct follow-up from a previous conversation or something, that these inept and incompetent writers split up over 2 episodes when really they needed to be in the same episode, because otherwise you're going to forget. Like, they said A and then they left the B for next episode, so you had forgotten about the A by the time they came around to it, as we both have. I can't for the life of me remember either.
Yeah, I
remember there was a setup, but that setup was episodes ago.
So I've lost track of.
I don't blame you, because this is not engaging enough to keep track on. And I find that I have to, as I watch it, I have to remind myself, okay, who the hell is this? And
right.
What does he or she want? When I continuously have to remind myself about that as I'm watching it, something is wrong. Something is very wrong, because then they're not engaging enough that I remember. When I have to keep on, okay, no, oh yeah, this was this guy. What's this guy's deal again? And that's kind of what you have to do here. Because I didn't write notes, and because of that, I'd completely forgotten. Why the hell is he blowing this up? What's in it? What's in it? It's something to do with the elves. Something. Don't want to work with them or something like that. It don't make a lick of sense without having watched that.
I have found that both with Andor and this, I've turned on subtitles because I can't hear the people half the time.
Oh,
And
I always use subtitles. Like, I'm from subtitle land, so like I feel nice and safe to use SGW terms with subtitles. I always have them on anyway. Like even in my native language, I prefer watching with subtitles.
Yeah, because I couldn't hear half the dialogue in Andor. Everyone was using movie voice. But, there's not a lot that bodes well for this. Sometimes I take a look at Rings of Power, and even if they kept the beats exactly the same, would I have changed certain things? For instance, the constant mystery, I think, is detrimental. You need to have a revealed goal, and then you need to have something happen, and then you need to find a way to get out of the predicament that you found yourself in. The orcs are finally attacking the dull woman and Don Lemonless. Finally, they've got their all their little hidey holes built so they can go through all the villages to attack them, which I thought was kind of stupid anyway.
Oh, I just remembered another thing. We also got another confirmation that that elves age in dog years, because Don Lemonless, he told his 14-year-old son that what you did in 14 years took me 200 to achieve.
Right.
Which only goes to tell me, boy, these elves, they're freaking useless.
Yes.
I mean, they lived this freaking long and they can't do anything. So basically, a 40-year-old human has more life experience and more wisdom than a 2,000-year-old elf.
Yeah, Gary Ladriel is supposed to be 2,000 years old, right?
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
And
absolutely ridiculous.
And they didn't gain the. Yeah, I heard the argument that somehow they learn commensurately as slowly as humans within the same expanded time frame, which I think is stupid. That's not what makes elves fantastic. It's that they learn what they need to learn within the first few years, and then they just become even better over the next several thousand.
They just disappear or something. But,
and then there was the son of the woman who I can never remember, who had the sword hilt, the evil sword hilt. And he didn't go off with the acolyte of Sauron to run off with the black elf. And I mean the black elf in the traditional sense, not in the Don Lemonless sense. It's confusing. I don't know what they did with that young kid anymore. I thought he was going to be bad, but now he's got the sword hilt, and the sword is in the tree somehow, or a carving of that evil sword is in the tree. Yeah, what does that mean?
No one knows, not even the writers. But I'm sure we'll get what passes for answers in the next few episodes here, which I think we're going to struggle with equally much as anything else.
There you go. I have nothing else.
This is like a struggle session. You're right.
Yes.
I'm done.
Yeah, I'm done.
I'm struggling to stay awake through this. That's for sure.